Okay. Good morning, students. I want to start with the SQL concept today. First, I will try to explain why we require SQL. What is the main reason we require SQL, and how to use the concepts of SQL. If we come to this point of view, suppose I'm having for instance, a computer. Say, for example, a user system. Okay, I'm having a user system, and I'm having a computer, another computer, say for example, where the data is stored. Okay, so I need to say for example, I want to get a data as a user. I want to get the data from the database or data where it is stored. So what I have to do, the connection has to be established from my computer to the computer where the data is stored, and the data has to be sent from this computer to my computer. So this is a general process. Now this process, where the user will be sending the data, and user will be asking for the data, and the database or data storage is going to send the data back to the user. How this is going to happen? So when we come to this point of view, the user, whatever data is going to ask, how is going to ask? He has to ask in a normal way, like, please send me the data, or please send me so and so data, or please send me so and so information for my computer. So this is the way the data will be asked by the user. So when the data is going to be asked by the user in this way, whatever data we are going to have, whatever data we are going to send, it will be sent in the same way. Okay. Say for example, uh, just a minute. Excuse. Yeah. Say for example, suppose I want to get the data. So the user has to ask the data. So whatever data user has to ask, a user has to fetch the data from the database, or user has to do, he has to follow some procedure. He has to follow some procedure, or in fact, he has to give the commands to the database to get the data. So that commands which we are going to get are going to be written in normal English language. Like for example, I wanted to get a data, or I wanted to insert a data. So the command is going to be insert. Suppose I want to get a data. So what I'm doing for getting a data, I'm selecting the data what I want to get. So the command is going to be select. So here, if you observe the commands over here, all these commands are going to be in the form of a general English. All the commands, whatever commands are there, it is going to be in the form of general English. That is why the language between the user and the database to get the data is what we call it as something called as SQL, and the abbreviation of is uh, getting the data in English queries, selecting the data in English queries, and the short form of SQL is SQL. That is what we call it as structured query language. So this is a language where it will help us to interact from the user to the database to get the data, to store the data, to retrieve the data, to modify the data, whatever it may be. For entire things, the language that we are going to use is SQL, structured query language. So that is what is called as SQL. SQL is a language in which it will have commands to get the data, to modify the data, to insert the data, to create the data, everything. So the commands, whatever we are having, has been classified into three different categories: DDL, DML, DCL, TCL. DML stands for data manipulation in language. Okay, DDL stands for data definition language. DCL stands for data control language. And TCL stands for transaction control language. So these are the four different types of commands that we have in SQL, which helps us to fetch the data, to create the data, and to modify the data, whatever I want from the databases. So when we come to something like a data manipulation language is mainly used to get the data, like in which it will have the commands, like it will be able to get insert the data, insert the data, update the data, delete the data, okay, or modify the data. These are the commands that we have in data manipulation. I'm manipulating the data, changing the data. Now, when we come to data definition language, I'm defining the data. So here, I'm going to create the structure, whatever it may be. Okay, I'm going to delete the data by using some command called as drop. Okay, so like this, we have some few more commands. Now, when we come to the data control language, in data control language and transaction control language, the things are going to be a little different. Like suppose, what do you mean by data control language? And what do you mean by transaction control language? Say, for example, if we take some instance like data control language. So in data control language, we have some commands related to like grant or revoke. Okay, and in transaction control language, we have something like rollback or save point. So what are these things exactly? For what we are going to use these things? Okay, if we come to the data control language, as I've said, we are going to have something like grant and revoke. Okay, grant and revoke are nothing but it is going to grant permission or revoke the permission for various things that we are going to use in the database. And transaction control language, as I've said, we have something like save point and rollback. So these are the two things. Save point means we are saving the data permanently into the database. Rollback means we are rolling back from the data. So these are the commands that we are going to have in the database, which I will be explaining in the coming sections. Which all these commands I'm going to explain you in detail in the coming section. Then coming to the next thing, we have something like keys and constants. So when we come to the keys concept, we have different types of keys, like primary key, foreign key, unique key, uh, not null. Okay, like this we have few more keys. They are called as keys or constants. So here, when we come to the primary key is mainly used to check whether the data is primary in the table. Okay, like foreign key, it is matching to the some other table. Unique means the value must not be repeated. Not null means it must not be empty. Then coming to the next things, operators. We have operators like, between, in, not in. Okay, like this. So here, when I'm fetching the data from the database, I want to fetch some similar items. Then I'll use like. If I want to get some range of values, some from 10 to 15, so between 10 and 15. In means if the value consists of a particular thing or not. Not in means it does not contain that particular value. Okay. Then we have something like clauses. We have linked, order by, group by, having, and we have one more thing, where clause. So here, distinct is nothing but it will get the data which is not repeated. Distinct means it will not going to be repeated. Order by means it will get the data in the sorted order, like ascending order or descending order. Group by means it will group the data. Like I want to get the data of BCom, then BSc, BBA. So groups, according to groups, I want to get the data. Having means once again if the data consists of so and so value or not. And where clause, where is something where it will fetch the data like am I having something, some information where I'm having so and so data, where I'm having so and so information. For those kind of things we'll be using this clauses. Then after this we have something like aggregate functions. We have five aggregate functions: sum, average, minimum, maximum, count. So here, this aggregate functions are going to work on the column values, not on the row values of the database. So column values means I want to get the column total or column average or column what is the minimum value in that particular column or maximum value in that particular column and how many values are there in that column. So for those things we are going to use aggregate functions. The next thing what we have is joins. Joins is nothing but if I want to get the data from more than one table. So I have to join two tables. I have to join two tables and get the data. So for those kind of things, we will be using joins. So we have different types of joins like a left outer join, right outer join, self join, natural join. Okay, like this we have few joins. Then coming to the next concept, something like a nested queries. Here, nested queries is nothing but one query nested inside another. One query nested inside another. That means the query which is nested inside will give some output. This output will be taken as an input for outer query. That is how the nested queries are going to work. So I can explain you all in the following sessions. Thank you. Thank you all.